So here you have your typical Craftsman riding lawnmower. It's a hydrostatic transmission, and the problem is you can no longer push it. You know, these lawnmowers that have a hydrostatic transmission usually have a lever that you can pull, like this one here, where it puts it into neutral. And this one's no longer rolling, so that's a real pain. Yeah, you can see. It's like the brake is on. I'll show you how to fix that. So the lighting is going to be a little difficult, but basically we're going to get up into here, up under this cover, and along the kind of the right axle up in there. Now you can remove this whole back plate and get to things pretty easily, but you know, that's 4 bolts. That's more work. So let's try to do this without removing this rear cover. And if you're unable to get to it, it's easy enough to take this cover off. You just have 2 bolts on this side, 2 bolts on this side, and this whole back cover just comes right off. But we're going to do it without removing it, I think. Now let me try to show you guys what we have up in here. So this is the mechanism here. And you see that disc? Yes, that is your brake disc. And what happens is that the brake pads get locked up onto that disc. And one way you can check to confirm that's the problem is just watch that disc, and while you're trying to move the wheels, see how that thing doesn't barely move? It should spin kind of freely in there when you're trying to back it up. So the problem is you need to take off this brake caliper, and it's pretty easy, so let me show you how to do it. Okay, so here we are, and the first thing you have to do is take out the cotter pin. Wow, that cotter pin is messed up. I can't even tell how that thing's in there. I think my best bet's just to break this cotter pin. You can usually do that pretty easily just by moving them back and forth a lot. Alright, so I've got a pick. Hopefully I can get it up through the loop. Yeah, perfect. Sometimes it's the easiest things to do, like take out a cotter pin, that become the biggest pain in the butt. So I have a 9/16 here. Maybe I can work that cotter pin loose by forcing it out of there.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Just break that sucker. Alright, so you want to take this bolt, or this nut, all the way off. This is the adjustment nut for your brake pads. And after you get a little bit of wear on your brake pads, you take out that cotter pin and you turn in this nut a couple of times, and that tightens things up so you get some more life out of your brake pads. It's actually a brake adjuster, a brake adjustment. So if your brakes are getting weak on your lawnmower, this is the nut you need to adjust. And like I say, you just turn it in probably half a turn, and that usually restores your brakes. But in this case, these darn brakes are locked up, man. So let's get them off of there. All right. So you have your adjustment nut and a washer that you take off. And then this bracket just comes right off. Actually, I might have to work the brake pedal on the other side to get that little bracket off. It's kind of bound up right now. Probably can just pry it off of here. Well, let's go ahead and loosen this one up. So this is a 3/8. Too small. Where's my damn 7/16, man? Sorry folks, I had some technical difficulties with my camera, so I'm filming this little portion months after I filmed the original. And this is another CRAFTSMAN mower, not the one I was working on initially, but it has the same brake components, so I wanted to show you the components here that I took off, that I lost the video recording to. So you have this bolt here, and then you have the other one back here, and this is the longer of the two bolts. And you also have this spacer here, so don't lose it. And then you have this spring which attaches to the spacer to the back of the bracket here. And the next footage you will see will be after I removed this whole caliper here. Okay folks, I had some technical difficulties with the camera, which you can see I kept the bolt, and the spring is attached here to this one bolt for this lever, so I just left that in place. And then I took off the other bolt. It's basically just two bolts that hold this piece on up into place here. You'll see it when I put it back together. And then this comes off, and you have you can see you have a spring on there that comes off, and then you have these two little piston things on each side of this bolt. And then check this out. That's your brake pad. You also have a brake pad up on the other side of this disc, so I can actually see that other brake pad up in it just sits up there in a recess in the transmission case, and I can see it moving around. And it doesn't have anything that actuates it. It just stays in place. I can see it moving. It's not the problem here. Now that we have that bracket off, I can see that we're moving again. So what we need to do is clean up this piece and get it so these little pistons work again. They're locked in place right now. They should move up and down freely to actuate this pad, but they are locked in place, holding that brake pad on, which was pinching that disc, and that's why yeah, basically the brakes were stuck on. So let's clean up this piece. That's your brake caliper. Let's see if we can get this thing to loosen up. I'm going to take off this spring and set it aside. Let that sit a little bit, see if that helps loosen it up. I also brought this so we can be a little more persuasive. We'll let it soak for a bit. Let's flip this thing over here. Take out the brake pad. Oh, that is stuck in there. So that's one of your brake pads. Then you also have a little metal plate in here. There it is. And then you just have your 2 pins that go through that are supposed to be able to move freely, and you can see why they're all frozen up is because there's just a lot of crap up in there. So let's get all that out of there. Yeah. And those pins should just fall right out when they're working properly. So let's put some penetrating fluid in there as well and let it sit for a bit. See what we get. So you want to clean both of these pieces up, make them all nice and shiny again. Man, these ones are really stuck in here good. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Not too hard. Don't want to damage anything. Alright. So you can see how these things will come out here. There we go. One. Oh, that one's still a little stuck. There we are, folks. This is all of the components of your brake system, except for one brake pad, which is still on the machine. So let's clean these things up. Alright, I'm just going to throw this stuff in some gas. Not the pad, but this other stuff. Clean it up a little bit. Also brought a brush out here. And I think I brought some sandpaper somewhere, because you need to sometimes sand out the holes in the caliper, get them nice and smooth again. Time to put on some gloves. I hate getting dirty. Actually, it's not dirt that I mind so much, it's grease. So here's our first piece. I'll just go ahead and clean it up here a little bit. Usually doesn't take much. Sometimes they're really rusted out. And keep in mind, the most important part are these cylinders here where the pistons go down through. So that's what you really want to make sure are polished clean and looking good. I mean, those, and they have to be real clean, just like a piston cylinder, because it's a very tight fit. So I have some pretty fine grit sandpaper here. I think it's 600. And I'm just going to roll it up into a little doobie here. Like that. And get it down in these cylinders. And just lightly sand them out like this. You'll get them looking spotless again without too much work usually. So this is how I do it. Alright, I bet you we're nice and clean now. Back in here for a little bit. Alright. Get these pistons out of here. If I can find them. A magnet would be handy right about now. There we go, there's the plate. Oh, there's one pin. Get some of that sandpaper on these little doodads. can see there's some marks on there we could clean up. You want to clean up any rust that's on there. I see a little bit of rust on one of these ends. Smooth these things off the best you can. Alright, those are cleaned up pretty good. And they move freely in and out. Looks like I could use a little more sanding inside the cylinders here. And I brought some lube out because you'll want to lube them up. And I got some of this red tacky grease here. Put a little in here and inside each of these little cylinders. Not much. In you go. Yeah, look at that. Nice and easy.
That's how it's done, son.
See that? They move nice and easy now. So in goes our plate. And our brake pad. That's it, dudes. And dudettes. We're ready to go back on the machine. Alright, let's get back at it here. Put this back on. So this you can just kind of move out of the way for now. Alright, that wrench will hold that out of the way. Alright, so the long bolt goes in the front and the short bolt here goes in the back. And as far as I know, there's no up or down on this thing. They have Loctite on it from the factory, it looks like. I'm not going to reapply. I've never seen one of these come loose. That's how it fits. Let's see if I can get my fingers up in there. Get that bolt started. Kind of an awkward position here. Yeah. Tighten that dude up here so everything stays in place. Alright, so he's finger tight there. Can let that bar back down. Don't forget to put our spring back on the caliper here. Put that back on. Put this bolt back in. So I think I might have to disconnect the spring here. Oh, whoops. I forgot the spacer in here. That's what was going on. Yeah, right. All right. Then we pull this bracket up straight like this. Put it in place. We have our spring there. Now all we need, just make sure this lever is going up and down when you reattach it. Oops, see that? Because it can flop forward like that. So make sure our pins are still in place. You can tighten up both of these now. And the other side. And so now we put this bracket on, and just make sure that it's not in that position. You want to make sure it's up and down. We got them on there, and then it just pops over this bolt. There we go. There we go. Just got to make sure this bracket gets on all the way, so you can see your cotter pin hole here, and that the bracket's kind of going up and down. Time for our adjustment nut. This will help hold all that together. And once we get this nut on here pretty much finger tight, then it's time to do a brake adjustment. And this bracket can get bound up when you're tightening things back up. So just make sure everything is going together like it's supposed to. So if you tighten this too tight, you're basically going to engage the brake. So you want to set it to right before it locks things up. So we're moving back and forth freely. And if you keep tightening it, eventually it's going to apply the brake like it's doing now. So we're getting close. Now we want to back it off a bit until we can roll free again. And now we'll go up top and roll the machine and apply the brake and see how it's engaging. And if it's not engaging tight enough, then we'll tighten up this nut a turn or so. Well, first let me just show you how this works when I'm stepping on the brake. That's what happens when you step on the brake. So now I'll just come up here and roll it. It rolls pretty easily now. And I'll roll it and apply the brake. And see when it engages here. So I'll just roll the machine and apply the brake. Yep, it's working. It's adjusted pretty good actually. Now when you push it, it engages pretty quick. I think I'll loosen it up one more turn and call it good. But that's how you adjust it. Just kind of by feel. Then once you get it adjusted correctly, you just put a cotter pin back in there and go mow. I hope this video helped, folks. Have a good day.